In 1985, something happened that changed animation forever. A desperate producer took three completely unrelated Japanese shows, stitched them together out of pure necessity, and accidentally created one of the most emotionally devastating series ever broadcast on American television. A show where main characters actually died, where relationships had real consequences, where a pop song could be used as a weapon in space. This is Robotech, and if you've never heard this story, you need to. Because this show proved something nobody believed was possible, and then disappeared into a legal nightmare that's still going on today. This is the complete story of Robotech, from its impossible creation to its tragic cancellation. Every saga, every death, every transformation. Let's get into it. Before we jump in, if you're into these deep dives on classic animation and cartoon, subscribing really helps the channel grow. Hit that bell icon too, so you don't miss when we cover the next forgotten gem from the 80s and 90s. These take forever to research, so your support genuinely matters. All right, let's get into it. Let's set the scene. It's 1984. Carl Macek, a producer at Harmony Gold USA, has his eyes on a Japanese anime series called Super Dimension Fortress Macross. It's got everything: giant transforming robots, space battles, actual character development. He wants to bring it to America. But there's a problem. A big one. US syndication rules in the 80s required 65 episodes minimum for a show to be broadcast daily for 13 weeks straight. That's how you made money in local TV markets. That's how you survived. Macross had 36 episodes. So Macek did something absolutely insane. He looked at two other completely unrelated Japanese mecha shows, Super Dimension Cavalry, Southern Cross, and Genesis Climber Mospieta, and thought, what if I just combined them? Different art styles, different characters, different stories, didn't matter. He'd make it work. And here's the thing. He actually did. Imagine trying to turn three separate movies into one trilogy. Except you can't reshoot anything. You can only redub the dialogue and hope nobody notices the characters look completely different in Act 2. That was Macek's job. He reportedly screened all three shows without sound, hunting for any visual or thematic overlap he could exploit. And then he invented a concept that would tie everything together: protoculture. A mystical, all-powerful energy source derived from something called the flower of life. This became the glue, the reason three separate alien invasions would happen across 4 decades. The thing that justified the entire experiment. It was brilliant. It was desperate. It was both. The English voice cast was recorded in the US. Ardwhite Chamberlain, Steve Kramer, Mike Reynolds, Gregory Snegoff, Ulpio Minucci composed the score, and somehow, despite being a production Frankenstein together out of pure necessity, the final product felt intentional. The three sagas were: number 1, the Macross saga, 36 episodes, the first Robotech War; number 2, the Masters, 24 episodes, the second Robotech War; number 3, the New Generation, 25 episodes, the third Robotech War. 85 episodes total. Exactly what they needed. Trust me, this matters later. Robotech premiered in syndication on March 4, 1985. No major network, just local TV stations across North America picking it up and running it. And it worked. Kids tuned in expecting another toy commercial disguised as a cartoon. What they got was a serialized, multi-generational space opera where people fell in love, made mistakes, and died. Actually died. Permanently. No, he's just injured cop-outs. No fake-out deaths. When someone died in Robotech, they were gone. And nobody was ready for that. The first 36 episodes follow Rick Hunter, a civilian stunt pilot who gets caught up in an intergalactic war when a massive alien spaceship, the SDF-1, crash lands on Earth. Rick starts as this cocky, naive kid who just wants to fly planes and impress his friends. By the end of the saga, he's a battle-hardened leader who's watched people he loves die in front of him. But here's where Robotech gets interesting. This isn't just a war story. It's also a soap opera. Rick falls for Lin Min-mei, a bubbly teenager who becomes a pop star. But his commanding officer, Lisa Hayes, a rigid, by-the-book military woman, also develops feelings for him. and he starts feeling something for her too. This love triangle spans years. It's messy, it's awkward, it's painfully realistic, and it was airing during Saturday morning cartoons. Let's talk about episode 18, titled Pineapple Salad. This is the episode that traumatized an entire generation. Roy Fokker was Rick's mentor, the cool older brother figure, the guy who taught him how to fly, the guy who cracked jokes in the middle of firefights. In episode 18, Roy gets shot during a battle. He makes it back to base. He sits down with his girlfriend. They talk. He mentions he's tired. He wants pineapple salad. And then he dies. Just like that. No dramatic music. No slow motion. He slumps over, and he's gone. Kids watching this on Saturday morning were not prepared. This was 1985. Cartoon characters didn't just die, especially not the fun ones, especially not the mentors. But Robotech didn't care. It killed Roy Fokker, and it never brought him back. That's when audiences realized this show was different. One of Robotech's wildest ideas was making music an actual weapon. In episode 27, Force of Arms, the climactic battle of the first Robotech war comes down to Minmay singing a pop song in the middle of a space battle. The alien Zentrieti forces, who have no concept of culture or entertainment, are so confused and overwhelmed by human emotion that they lose focus. Culture defeats conflict. A love song ends a war. It's cheesy. It's brilliant. It's incredibly 80s. And it worked because the show had spent 26 episodes building up Minmay's fame, showing how her music affected people. By the time she's broadcasting her concert into a war zone, it doesn't feel random. It feels earned. Nobody talks about this part, but Robotech understood something most cartoons didn't. Setup matters. After the Macross saga ended, Robotech had to pivot hard. New characters, new art style, new everything. The second saga, adapted from Southern Cross, follows a new generation of soldiers 15 years after the First War. The SDF one is gone. Rick, Lisa, and most of the original cast have left Earth on a deep space mission. And honestly, this saga gets a bad rap. It's slower. It's more political. The stakes feel smaller after the epic space battles of Macross. But here's the thing. It's a necessary bridge. It explores what happens after you win a war. How do you rebuild? How do you deal with trauma on a planetary scale? What happens when the next threat arrives and your best soldiers are gone? The Masters saga is the middle chapter nobody asked for, but in hindsight, it adds weight. It shows that victory has consequences. The third saga, adapted from Mospeda, takes place another generation later. Earth has been invaded again, this time by the Invid, an alien race obsessed with protoculture. And they won. Earth is occupied. Humanity is scattered. The new generation follows a resistance fighter named Scott Bernard, leading a ragtag group of survivors across a ruined Earth, trying to reach the Invid's headquarters. It's Mad Max meets Star Wars. It's gritty, desperate, and surprisingly emotional. By this point, the series has completely shifted tone. The grand space battles are gone. This is guerrilla warfare. This is survival. And it works because the show has spent 60 episodes earning your trust. You believe this world. You care about these people, even though they're not the characters you started with. The series finale aired on June 28, 1985. After 85 episodes, 3 wars, and 4 decades of in-universe time, Robotech ends with the liberation of Earth. The Invid are defeated. The survivors reunite with the Robotech Expeditionary Force. And the show just ends. No sequel hook, no to be continued, just a quiet, bittersweet victory. It's the kind of ending that stays with you. Not because it's flashy, but because it feels final. An entire era, over. Here's where things get messy. Harmony Gold tried to make a sequel series called Robotech 2, The Sentinels. It would have followed Rick, Lisa, and the Expeditionary Force on their deep space mission. 3 episodes were produced. And then it was canceled. Why? 2 reasons. First, the Matchbox toy line failed. And here's the kicker. Matchbox couldn't even sell the most iconic toy. Hasbro had already licensed the VF-1 Valkyrie transforming jet for their Transformers line, where it was sold as Jetfire. So Matchbox was stuck selling a non-transforming, poorly made version of the coolest robot in the show. It flopped. Second, the Plaza Accord of 1985 caused the Japanese yen to skyrocket against the US dollar. Suddenly, contracting Japanese animation studios became insanely expensive. Harmony Gold couldn't afford it. So the Sentinels died. The story was later completed in a series of novels by Jack McKinney, but the animated continuation fans wanted never happened. Let's hit some deep cuts. The name Robotech wasn't even created by Harmony Gold. It was licensed from Revell, a model kit company that had used the name for a line of Japanese mecha toys. Karl Machek just borrowed it to create a unified brand. Also, Robotech wasn't just edited for violence and nudity, though it was. It also kept way more mature content than most American cartoons. Characters died, relationships were complicated, war had weight. That balance, censoring just enough to get on TV, but keeping the emotional core intact, is why it worked. Robotech mattered because it proved something American TV executives didn't believe. Kids would watch serialized, emotionally complex animation. Before Robotech, anime imports were butchered. Battle of the Planets removed entire plot lines. Characters were renamed, redesigned, rewritten. Robotech kept the structure. It kept the deaths. It kept the drama. And it worked. IGN ranked it among the top 100 animated series of all time. It became a cornerstone of Cartoon Network's Toonami block in 1998. An entire generation of anime fans trace their love of the medium back to Robotech. But here's the complicated part. Harmony Gold's control over the Macross license created decades of legal battles that prevented new Macross content from reaching the West. The series that introduced anime to America also, ironically, blocked future anime from crossing over. It's a messy legacy, but it's an undeniable one. Robotech was a show born out of desperation, a producer trying to meet a syndication quota by gluing 3 shows together. But it became something more. It became a proof of concept, a demonstration that animation could be sophisticated, serialized, and emotionally devastating. That kids would follow a story across 85 episodes, that they'd accept permanent loss, that they'd care about characters who weren't just selling toys. It wasn't perfect. The 3 sagas don't match perfectly. The art shifts. The tone changes. But that's part of the charm. Robotech is rough around the edges because it was never supposed to exist in the first place. And yet, 40 years later, people still remember Roy Fokker's death. They still debate the love triangle. They still hum Minmei's songs. Because Robotech didn't just adapt anime for American audiences. It changed what American audiences thought animation could be. If this brought back some memories, or introduced you to a series you missed, consider subscribing. There's a lot more where this came from. Thanks for watching. And remember, protoculture is a hell of a drug.